Welcome, traveler, to a story whispered by the wind. Tonight, we follow a path carved in thunder. Legends speak of a shard, a fragment of divine light, fallen from the hand of Zeus himself. They call it the Skyshard, a jewel of storm and silence, hidden where the clouds kiss the earth. No sword will guide us. No war will stain our steps. Only curiosity, wonder, and listening hearts. The tale begins on a quiet night, when the sky was restless and the air carried a secret. A girl named Elara leaned by her window, watching the restless stars through silver-veiled clouds. The rain tapped like fingers on glass, and thunder rolled like a drum echoing deep in the earth. She did not fear it. Instead, she listened, as if the storm was a voice speaking just to her. And in that voice, she heard a whisper, soft yet clear. Seek the shard, where sky meets stone. A spark lit in her chest. A journey had begun, though she had not yet taken her first step. So come closer, listener. Let us follow Elara into the storm, where wonder waits to be found. The night is wide, the story is long, and the Skyshard of Zeus is calling from beyond the clouds. The night was alive, with the restless hum of thunder rolling across distant hills. Soft but unshaken, Elara pressed her hand against the window frame, feeling the cool wood vibrate with every low tremor. She had always loved storms, not for their fury, but for their strange music hidden behind each roar. Lightning danced like silver veins across the sky, brief sketches of light too swift for human eyes. The storm was no stranger to her village, perched high on a ridge where clouds often paused to rest. But this night felt different. The air was thicker. The wind spoke in tones that seemed almost human. Elara tilted her head, listening not with ears alone, but with the stillness of her heart and breath. Through the booming sky, she heard it. A voice faint, layered beneath thunder, fragile yet undeniable. "Seek the shard," it whispered, woven into the sound of rain, as if the storm itself carried the words. Her pulse quickened. She leaned closer, eyes wide, lips parted, though no one else could hear it. The voice came again, sharper now, carried by a crack of lightning that lit the world in blue-white. "Where sky meets stone," it said before fading into silence, leaving only the patter of falling rain. Elara stepped back, pressing her hand to her chest, where a strange warmth stirred under her skin. She was not afraid. The storm's voice felt less like a warning, more like an invitation to begin. Her village elders had told many tales of gods and shards, but always in hushed tones at the hearth. Fragments of light, they said, fell when the heavens trembled and the hand of Zeus lost its grip. Some claimed the shards vanished into rivers. Others said they nested in mountains older than time. No one ever proved such stories, and most laughed them away like smoke scattered by restless air. But Elara did not laugh. She felt the truth of it moving inside her, as if her bones remembered. The rain slowed, thinning into mist, and a calm stretched across the night like a blanket of glass. She opened her window, letting the cool air sweep over her face, alive with the scent of wet earth. Far away, the horizon glowed faintly, not with fire, but with a pulse like a living fragment of sky. Her heart leapt. It was as if the stars themselves had bent down to leave a secret mark for her. She whispered the words aloud, steady though quiet, tasting them as though they were her own. "Seek the shard, where sky meets stone." The syllables lingered like embers caught in the wind. In that moment, her room no longer felt like a home, but a cocoon waiting to be broken. The world beyond called, filled with paths she had never dared to walk, and voices yet to meet. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. The girl staring back seemed braver, older, awake. The storm above had not only spoken, it had chosen. And she was the one who heard its secret. Elara closed her eyes, letting the echo rest in her chest, like a promise yet to be fulfilled. Her journey had not begun with footsteps, but with a whisper carried by thunder across the night. And though she stood still, the road already stretched before her, written in stars and storms. Somewhere beyond the ridge, beyond the valleys and seas, the Skyshard of Zeus was waiting. It was hidden, yes, but not silent. Its call had found her, and her story was already in motion. The storm faded into a hush, leaving only her heartbeat and the steady dripping of rain outside. Elara knew sleep would not come. The world had shifted, and she could never return to before. Her adventure had begun not with a map, nor with a guide, but with the whisper of a storm. The morning sun rose pale and gentle, brushing the rooftops of Elara's village with threads of gold. She had not slept. Her eyes carried the glow of the storm's whisper, restless and burning within her. The words, "Seek the shard," lingered in her thoughts, echoing louder than the chatter of daily life. Elara knew she needed answers, something beyond superstition, something rooted in memory and stone. Her village held one place older than all others, a library woven into the bones of a forgotten temple. Few visited it now. Dust coated its steps, and ivy clung to the pillars like vines around secrets. Elara walked there at dawn, her footsteps soft against the worn path, guided by instinct, not reason. The temple stood quiet, its archways broken, its roof caved in where storms had claimed their prize. Yet the library endured, sheltered in the shadows below, a sanctuary of ink and fading parchment. She entered, brushing past heavy doors that groaned like sleepers disturbed from endless slumber. Inside, the air was thick with age, heavy with the scent of wax, dust, and forgotten words. Shelves towered above her, some cracked, some leaning, filled with scrolls no hand had touched in years. A single lantern flickered in the corner, lit by the caretaker who lived among the temple's echoes. He was a quiet man, his beard long, his robes patched, his eyes clear as water on a calm lake. "Elara," he said softly, as though her arrival had been expected long before her steps arrived. She startled, unsure how he knew her name, but something in his tone carried a gentle certainty. "I heard the storm," she whispered. "It spoke to me. It spoke of a shard, where sky meets stone." The caretaker did not smile, nor frown, but nodded as if confirming something long kept in silence. He guided her through rows of crumbling texts, stopping before a case locked with bronze and dust. From it, he withdrew a brittle scroll, bound in faded ribbon, marked with a symbol of a thunderbolt. "This," he said, "is the record of the Skyshards. Few remember, fewer still believe, but it is here." Elara unrolled the parchment carefully, her hands trembling as she traced the ink of ancient script. It spoke of fragments of lightning, crystallized when Zeus's hand cast storms too fierce for the sky. One shard, it said, had fallen near mountains where temples once rose, kissed by clouds eternal. Elara's breath caught. The words matched the whisper she had heard, the call buried in thunder. She looked up at the caretaker. "Is it real? Or is it only story, like the elders' fireside tales?" "Truth," he said, "is not always measured by sight. It is measured by those chosen to listen." Her heart stirred. She felt both fear and wonder, as if the air itself had grown heavier around her. The caretaker pressed a small bronze disc into her hand, etched with stars and curving lines. "This is a map," he explained, "but it is not drawn for the ground. It is written for the sky." Elara studied it, seeing constellations, lines of light pointing toward valleys and distant isles. She felt the weight of destiny settle upon her palms, though it burned not with burden but purpose. The caretaker's lantern flickered, shadows bending like watchers leaning closer to hear her choice. "You have been called," he said softly. "The shard will not reveal itself to those who are deaf to it." Elara closed her fingers around the bronze map, its edges warm, as if it carried a hidden pulse. She understood now. The storm had not been random. It had been a messenger guiding her here. Outside, the morning bells rang faintly across the village, ordinary life moving as though unchanged. Yet for Elara, everything had changed. The path stretched forward, lit by constellations in her hand. The forgotten temple had given her more than knowledge. It had given her direction and a vow. She stepped into the sunlight, carrying the storm's whisper and the sky's map, ready to begin. The journey had moved from dream into daylight, from voice into promise, from silence into song. The night after her visit to the temple, Elara could not close her eyes to the weight of the bronze disc. It sat on her table, glowing faintly when the moonlight touched its surface, as if alive with breath. Each line curved like a river, each star etched like an eye watching her from the depths of time. She traced the shapes with her finger, feeling warmth, as though the metal remembered the sky. The caretaker's words returned to her. "It is written for the sky, not the ground." Elara lifted the disc and stepped outside, where the night was still, save for the whisper of leaves. Above her, the constellations stretched wide, glittering like a map only the heavens could hold. She raised the disc, aligning its marks with the stars, and the pattern suddenly made sense. The bronze shimmered. Lines of light leapt from the disc into the sky, tracing paths between stars. She gasped. The air around her hummed softly, a resonance between earth and heavens unseen. A shape appeared, an arc across the night, pointing far to the east, beyond mountains and sea. The disc grew cool again, its light fading, but the image had carved itself into her memory. For the first time, Elara knew the storm had given not only a call, but a direction. She folded her arms around herself, feeling both small and infinite under the vast canopy above. In the morning, she carried the disc into the village square, hoping to find guidance or a companion. People bustled, trading goods, leading livestock, laughing in the brightness of day. Yet when Elara spoke of shards and stars, they only smiled kindly, shaking their heads at her dream. "Storms speak to no one," one woman said. "Best you let the wind be the wind, child." Another laughed gently, patting Elara's shoulder. "The sky belongs to gods, not to us." Still, she felt no discouragement. The storm's voice was stronger than their disbelief. As the sun began to set, she walked toward the cliffs beyond the village, where the view was wide. There, the sea spread endless, and the horizon glowed with colors, fire and violet and gold. Elara held the disc up again, waiting for the stars to return and guide her eyes once more. The wind picked up, carrying scents of salt and pine. As if urging her to listen carefully, she whispered into the open air, "Where sky meets stone, show me the path." The bronze disc shimmered faintly, as though answering her call, yet no lines appeared this time. Instead, a single star brightened in the east, shining more fiercely than all others around it. Elara recognized it from the pattern etched into the disc, the first marker on the map of clouds. Her heart lifted. She had not imagined it. The shards' path was real, alive, waiting to be followed. She pressed the disc to her chest, closing her eyes, letting the night's silence steady her resolve. The journey would be long, she knew. Beyond the mountains, beyond the sea, into the unknown. She felt a tremor of fear, but it was wrapped in the stronger fire of wonder and purpose. The storm had chosen her, the temple had shown her, and the stars themselves had confirmed her way. Elara looked once more at the eastern horizon, where the first star of her map glowed bright. The village lights flickered behind her, warm and safe, but her path lay forward, vast and wild. She turned, stepping away from the familiar, holding the disc like a compass carved from the sky. The night deepened, filled with unseen whispers, as if the clouds themselves carried her story. And so began her walk along the path of constellations, led by a map of clouds and thunder. Elara followed the path eastward, guided by the disc and the bright star that burned in the sky. Days passed, and the air grew cooler, the forests thicker, and the roads less traveled by her kind. The bronze disc hummed faintly at night, as though it knew the journey even better than her heart. One evening, when the wind carried scents of cedar and rain, she reached a quiet mountain pass. There, the air shifted strangely, whistling low, as if the mountains themselves were breathing. Elara paused, feeling the wind swirl around her ankles, curling like ribbons alive with intention. "Traveler," said a voice, soft yet carried on the breeze, neither near nor far, but everywhere. She turned quickly, but no one stood there, only shadows stretching long between crooked pines. The wind rose again, and with it, a figure appeared, stepping gently from the folds of air itself. He was tall, with hair silver as cloudlight, and eyes that shifted like skies before a storm. "Do not fear," he said, bowing slightly. "I am Aeon, a keeper of winds, watcher of their language." Elara held the disc tight, unsure if he was spirit or man, but the calm in his voice steadied her. "The storm called you," Aeon continued. "I felt its whisper. Few hear it. Fewer still follow." She nodded slowly, whispering. "It told me to seek the shard, where sky meets stone." Aeon smiled faintly, as though the words were both familiar and heavy with ancient meaning. "The shard stirs the winds," he said. "It bends their course, calls them restlessly across the earth." Elara felt a tremor in the air, a subtle pulse that matched the bronze disk's hidden heartbeat. "You cannot walk this path alone," Aeon said. "The winds must be read or they will turn against you." His hand rose, palm open, and the air swirled, gathering leaves into a spiral of dancing patterns. "The winds speak in signs," he explained. "They tell where storms are born, where roads will open." Elara watched in awe as the spiral of leaves pointed eastward, the same direction her map had shown. "Will you come with me?" she asked, her voice cautious yet hopeful. Aeon studied her, his gaze steady as mountain stone, then nodded. "The winds wish it. So do I." Together, they walked beneath tall pines, their path lit by starlight and the murmuring breeze. Elara felt lighter, knowing she was no longer alone, guided not only by stars, but by a friend. As they camped that night, Aeon spoke of the winds of storms that carried memory and breezes that healed. He told her of sailors who once listened to gusts as maps, and farmers who read rain in the air. "The shard," he said softly, "is not only a piece of lightning, it is the breath of the sky itself." Elara lay awake, listening to the night. The wind stroked the trees like a lullaby of endless time. Her journey, once a whisper in the storm, was now a path shared, carried by voices old as the sky. She closed her eyes, holding the bronze disc, knowing tomorrow the winds themselves would lead them on. The mountains hummed faintly around her, and above, the constellations burned with quiet approval. Elara and Aeon journeyed eastward, their steps tracing rivers and valleys guided by stars and wind. The bronze disc pulsed softly at night, as though it remembered the path long before their eyes saw it. Days of travel led them to the shore, where waves lapped against stone and gulls wheeled overhead. Beyond the water, faint through the haze, rose an island shaped like a crescent moon. "The winds point there," Aeon said, his silver hair stirring though the air lay calm around them. Elara felt her heart stir. The disc warmed, its etchings glowing faintly in response to the horizon. They found a fisherman willing to take them across, though his eyes flickered with hidden fear. "The Island of Echoes," he murmured, gripping the oar tightly. "Strange place. Few linger there." The boat cut through the tide. Waves whispered against the wood, and seabirds cried in haunting calls. Elara watched the island grow nearer, cliffs rising sharp, crowned with forests dark and still. As they stepped ashore, the world shifted. Every sound seemed to stretch, repeat, and return. Her breath came back to her, a half-second late. Aeon's footstep echoed long after it fell. Even the rustle of leaves lingered unnaturally, layering the air with countless ghostly whispers. "It is said," Aeon murmured, "that the winds carry voices here, and the stone remembers them all." Elara shivered, though not from fear, but from awe, at a land where silence could never be found. They followed a narrow path into the island's heart, where cliffs curved like walls of a vast hall. Every word Elara spoke trailed after her, returning softer, like a secret repeated by unseen mouths. At last, they reached a hollow carved in the stone, its walls gleaming with faint crystalline veins. The disc flared suddenly, light bouncing against the walls, scattering into countless reflections. The echoes thickened, forming not just sound, but words carried from many ages, many tongues. Some voices sang, others whispered, some wept, all woven together in a chorus without end. Elara closed her eyes, listening deeply, trying to find sense in the chaos of endless memory. Then, beneath it all, she heard a phrase repeated, steady and unbroken across the echoes. Follow the bridge of light. When the sky strikes stone, the path will appear. Her eyes opened wide. The words were not her imagination. Aeon nodded, having heard them too. The walls pulsed, a faint glow tracing the veins of crystal, marking the riddle into living stone. Elara placed her hand on the surface, and it vibrated, humming like a chord plucked in the sky. The disk warmed, aligning with the sound, its edges shining as if agreeing with the island's voice. "The sky bridge," Aeon said softly. "It is no myth. The echoes themselves confirm its truth." Elara's heart quickened. The storm's call, the temple's scroll, the disk's map all pointed here. She whispered the words again, letting them echo back to her. "Bridge of light. Sky strikes stone." The cavern replied, her own voice multiplied into 1,000, filling the air with her promise. Aeon touched her shoulder gently. "The shard is near, but every path demands patience." They left the cavern slowly, the echoes following them like companions unwilling to let go. As they reached the shore again, the wind shifted, carrying their voices farther than before. Elara looked back at the island, its cliffs glinting faintly under the last touch of daylight. It did not feel haunted, but alive, a place where memory and air were forever entwined. She carried its riddle within her, etched not only on stone, but into her very heartbeat. The boatmen waited, silent and pale, yet said nothing as they returned across the restless sea. Above them, the stars gathered again, ready to guide the next step of their journey. The Island of Echoes had spoken, and Elara knew the sky bridge awaited, hidden in stormlight. The sea lay behind them, but the riddle of the island clung to Elara's thoughts like a gentle chain. "Follow the bridge of light," she repeated, watching the horizon glow faintly in the evening sky. Aeon walked beside her, his cloak stirred by breezes that bent toward the east as if urging them on. The disk warmed again, steady now, its surface shining with lines that mimicked lightning itself. By dawn, they reached high cliffs where the land seemed to end. Yet clouds drifted lower than the stone. It was there that the sky opened, and a beam of sunlight struck the cliffs in sudden brilliance. The light stretched outward, not fading, but forming a ribbon across the empty gulf below. Elara gasped softly. A bridge made of light, woven from mist and fire, arched into the distance. "The sky bridge," Aeon said reverently. The voices were true. Few living eyes have seen it. Wind rushed upward, carrying the hum of countless tones, as if the bridge itself was alive with song. Elara stepped forward, hesitant, yet the disk pulsed warmly, steadying her with its unseen courage. Her foot touched the bridge, and instead of falling, it held firm beneath her, glowing brighter. Aeon followed, and together they walked across the shimmering span that linked earth and sky. Beneath them, clouds shifted like oceans, rolling in waves of silver and deep, endless blue. The farther they went, the stronger the hum became, like a chorus rising in unison around them. Elara listened closely, realizing the tones carried words, faint but woven into the wind. "They guide us," Aeon said, tilting his head as though deciphering a forgotten language of air. One phrase repeated often, clear enough that Elara too could understand it without effort. "Beyond the bridge lies the shard, born of storm and memory, waiting to awaken." Her heart tightened. Excitement mingled with reverence as the bridge carried them higher still. At its midpoint, the ribbon widened into a platform of pure radiance, pulsing with living light. Here, the hum grew deeper, resonant, vibrating through Elara's bones like a second heartbeat. Symbols appeared in the air, drawn of light itself, shifting and flowing in endless patterns. She reached out, and the disk in her hand shone brightly, aligning with the glowing runes. The bridge responded, shimmering more fiercely, sending arcs of gentle energy into the sky. Aeon whispered, "This place remembers all who crossed. Each step adds to its eternal song." Elara closed her eyes, sensing the presence of countless travelers before her, unseen yet near. Their courage their hopes, their whispers remained, woven into the bridge like threads of light. She felt both humbled and uplifted, knowing she was part of something vast and unending. When she opened her eyes, the bridge stretched onward, leading to a mountain crowned in clouds. The peak glowed faintly, lightning dancing silently along its slopes like restless stars. Aeon breathed deeply, his voice steady. "The shard is there. The mountain of thunder awaits us." Elara nodded, though awe still gripped her, and took another step along the radiant bridge. The light bent gently, as if guiding them, never faltering, always drawing them closer to the peak. Behind them, the platform hummed one last note, sending ripples across the span like a farewell. The bridge narrowed again, yet their steps were firm, steadied by faith and the song of the winds. Far ahead, the mountain's shadow deepened, towering like a sentinel between worlds. The sky bridge carried them closer, each step burning with promise, carrying the weight of destiny. Elara whispered softly, not to Aeon, but to the bridge itself, "We are ready." The wind answered with a rising chord, and the light beneath their feet brightened in reply. The shard awaited, hidden in thunder, but the path was now open, woven from light and song. The skybridge faded behind them, but its hum still lingered in Elara's chest like a second heartbeat. Before them towered the mountain of thunder, its slopes wrapped in cloud, its crown lit by sparks. The air tasted sharp, charged with energy, as though the mountain itself breathed in stormlight. Aeon lifted his gaze, reverent yet wary. This place is alive. Every stone remembers the sky. They began their climb, each step echoing softly, though the path was muffled by thick mist. The bronze disk pulsed warmly, guiding their way through hidden trails etched by forgotten hands. Birds wheeled high above, their wings flashing silver as they vanished into the restless fog. The wind thickened, carrying deep rumbles that rolled like distant drums of an unseen orchestra. Elara's hair lifted slightly, the air buzzing, alive with the weight of unfallen lightning. "The shard is close," Aeon said, his voice steady, though the winds bent fiercely around them. They reached a plateau where great stones stood in a circle, carved with ancient swirling runes. Elara touched one, and the stone vibrated faintly, humming in harmony with the disk she carried. The runes glowed, faint at first, then brighter, weaving together like constellations across the stone. Aeon whispered, "This circle is a gate. It listens for those who bear the storm's chosen key." Elara raised the disk, and it answered, shining fiercely, its light spilling into the circle. The air thickened, charged, and the sky above roared as clouds twisted tighter in endless spirals. A column of light descended, linking sky to stone, filling the circle with living brilliance. Within the glow, shapes formed memories of storms, shadows of lightning, echoes of endless rain. The voices of wind returned, layered and vast, chanting words that trembled across her bones. "Elara," they called, shaping her name as if the mountain itself knew her by heart. She stood steady, though awe pressed heavily, and whispered back, "I am here. I am listening." The voices answered, "The shard lies within the crown, but every seeker must bear the trial." Aeon glanced at her, his eyes calm. "Do not fear. The mountain does not test to break, but to teach." The light faded slowly, leaving the path ahead marked by glowing veins within the rock. Together they followed it upward, where cliffs leaned inward like vast guardians of stone. The air grew colder, the thunder nearer, until the sky itself felt only a breath away. At last, they reached a high ridge, and there, beyond the mist, lay the crown of the mountain. It shone faintly, arcs of lightning moving slowly, coiling across the rocks like sleeping serpents. The shard pulsed within, unseen yet felt, a presence humming just beyond reach. Elara's steps slowed, reverent, her heart racing at the weight of the destiny before her. Aeon stood beside her, his voice soft. "This is the threshold. Beyond, your truth awaits." The wind circled them, rising into a spiral, not angry but expectant, awaiting her choice. Elara closed her eyes, feeling the mountain's hum, the bridge's song, The islands echo within her. She opened them again, steady, and whispered to the storm, "I am ready for the trial." The thunder answered, not as a threat, but as a welcome, rolling deep like a timeless drum. The mountain stirred, its crown alight with radiant arcs, and the path unfolded into the heart. Elara stepped forward, the bronze disc burning like dawn in her hands. The shard calling her name. The trial of thunder awaited, hidden in the luminous breath of the mountain's crown. The crown of the mountain blazed with shifting light, arcs of silver energy curling across the stone. Elara stepped into the circle, the bronze disc warm in her hand, its glow steady like a guiding star. Aeon stood nearby, his gaze calm, though the winds swirled fiercely, carrying the mountain's deep voice. The air thickened, heavy with storm, and thunder rolled not as anger, but as a call to listen. "Elara," the voice rumbled, layered and vast. "The shard awaits, but the trial is the key." Her breath caught, yet she raised her chin, whispering back, "I will walk the trial. Show me the path." The ground trembled softly, not breaking, but opening into a hall of light within the mountain's crown. She entered, the walls alive with streams of lightning, flowing like rivers of molten sky around her. Each step hummed, vibrating through her bones, as if the mountain itself measured her resolve. Aeon's voice carried faintly behind. "The trial is not of strength, but of truth. Walk with courage." The chamber stretched endlessly, filled with echoes of storms long past, their whispers haunting. Suddenly, images formed in the arcs of light shadows of her own life, her choices, her fears. She saw herself as a child, gazing at storms with awe, whispering wishes to the rolling thunder. She saw her mother's face, kind yet weary, urging her to follow the stars when storms grew heavy. The shard's voice echoed through the lightning. "Why do you seek me, Elara? Speak your truth." Her heart pounded, yet she whispered, "Not for power, not for glory, but to heal what storms divide." The walls brightened, the lightning softening into streams of gold that wove around her words. Another vision appeared, herself lost in a forest, afraid, yet choosing to keep walking forward. The voice asked again, "Do you walk for yourself or for the song of the world?" She breathed deeply, steady. "For both. For the song within me, and the song that binds us all." The chamber quaked, not in anger but in recognition, the lightning swirling into a vast spiral. At its center formed the image of the Skyshard, glowing like a fragment of living dawn. Elara reached for it, but the voice rose once more, a final question wrapped in thunder. "Will you bear my weight when the winds falter? Will you carry not just light, but memory?" Her eyes filled with quiet certainty. "Yes, even when the sky forgets itself, I will remember." The lightning stilled, then bowed, streams folding inward, guiding her toward the shard's heart. The disc in her hand blazed brilliantly, its etchings aligning with the storm's eternal rhythm. The shard appeared fully, hovering in the air, crystal clear yet burning with endless lightning. It pulsed, once, twice, then released a tone so pure it silenced every other sound in the mountain. Elara stepped closer, her hands trembling, yet calm as she reached for the shard's radiant glow. The moment her fingers touched it, warmth surged, not burning, but like the sky itself embraced her. Visions poured into her winds across endless plains, storms birthing rivers, clouds shaping memory. The shard's voice was no longer distant, but within her, steady and gentle. "You are chosen." Elara held it firmly, the trial complete, her truth bound forever with the breath of the storm. She turned back toward the entrance, where Aeon waited, his eyes shining with quiet pride. The winds calmed, the thunder softened, and the mountain released a sigh older than time. Elara stepped out into the open air, the shard blazing softly in her hands. Her destiny awakened. The mountain crown faded behind as Elara and Aeon descended, the shard glowing softly in her hands. The winds no longer howled, but sang, carrying tones that matched the pulse of the crystal's heart. Elara felt each note resonate within her chest, a harmony threading her breath with the living storm. Aeon walked beside her in silence, yet his smile revealed pride and perhaps relief at her triumph. They reached the plateau, where the runes in stone still shimmered faintly, awaiting their return. As she stepped into the circle, the shard's glow reached out, weaving with the ancient carvings. The ground stirred gently, not shaking but awakening, as though the mountain bowed in recognition. "Elara," the winds whispered gentler now. "You carry our memory. Guard it with your heart." She closed her eyes, whispering back, "I will carry it with care. For all who walk beneath the sky." The air softened, and the storm withdrew higher, leaving the peak quiet, washed in silver mist. Together they continued down, the path marked now by golden veins left by the shard's blessing. Each step carried them closer to the island below, where rivers glistened like threads of light. Elara glanced at the shard, marveling at its shifting glow, which revealed visions within its core. She saw oceans trembling with storms, forests bending to rain, and skies splitting into dawn. It was not chaos, but balance, each storm carving rivers, each wind shaping valleys with care. Aeon spoke quietly. "Do you see now? The shard does not command, it remembers and guides." Elara nodded, her voice soft. "It holds the song of the world, and now it sings through me." As they neared the foothills, they found a grove alive with blossoms stirred by unseen breezes. The trees leaned slightly as though bowing, petals drifting gently toward Elara and the shard. A hush settled over the grove, and then the voices of wind rose once more, serene and tender. "Elara," they called, "the shard is not the end. It is the first note in a greater harmony." She listened, her breath steady, and whispered, "Then guide me to the melody that follows." The shard pulsed gently, releasing a warm wave that spread across the grove like sunlight. Every leaf shimmered, every flower turned, and even the soil glowed faintly with its touch. Aeon looked skyward, his eyes distant. "The world remembers through you now. The storm trusts." Elara's heart swelled, not with pride, but with belonging, as though she had become part of the wind. Beyond the grove, the island stretched wide, rivers winding toward distant mountains and sea. The shard's glow pointed faintly south, where a vast plain shimmered beneath the setting sun. Elara felt its pull, gentle but firm, a promise that the journey was not yet complete. Aeon spoke again, his tone almost reverent. "It seeks its kin. The shard is but one of many." Elara traced her fingers over its surface, sensing echoes of other shards hidden across the earth. Their voices whispered faintly, distant yet real, like stars calling across an endless night. She breathed deeply, her resolve steady. "Then I will follow. The song is not yet whole." The grove released them gently, the petals swirling one last time before resting quietly again. They walked onward, the shard's glow steady, the sky above painted in hues of fading day. Every step felt lighter, though the path ahead stretched vast, filled with mystery and promise. Elara glanced at Aeon, and for the first time, she smiled fully, her fear replaced by quiet wonder. The winds rose again, not fierce but joyful, as though celebrating the beginning of something greater. And so, with the shard in her hands and the song of the storm in her heart, Elara journeyed on. The plains stretched vast before Elara, glowing beneath a sky painted with fading gold and rising stars. The shard pulsed softly in her hands, its rhythm steady, guiding her gaze toward distant horizons. Aeon walked quietly beside her, his staff tapping gently, marking the cadence of their journey. The air smelled of grass and earth, alive with the murmur of unseen rivers winding through the land. Every step felt lighter, as though the storm itself carried her onward, whispering strength within. "Elara," Aeon spoke at last, "what do you feel now that the shard rests in your keeping?" She paused, the wind brushing her hair, and whispered, "I feel not power, but belonging." Her words lingered, carried across the fields, as though the world itself paused to listen. The shard glowed brighter, and within its depths shimmered faint echoes of other distant shards. They flickered like stars in a hidden sky, calling softly for reunion, for wholeness once more. Elara pressed it close, her heart swelling. It sings of others. The song is incomplete. Aeon's eyes glimmered. Then the road is long, but the melody will lead you true. They came upon a hill crowned with wildflowers, their petals swaying in rhythm with unseen breezes. Elara sat upon the crest, the shard glowing steady, its light washing the blossoms in silver hues. The winds rose gently, carrying voices not of command, but of companionship and endless memory. Elara, they whispered, the storm does not end. It flows, it shapes, it remembers. She closed her eyes, answering softly, then I will flow with it. I will remember with it. Aeon seated himself beside her, his voice quiet but sure. You are no longer a seeker, but a bearer. Her gaze drifted toward the horizon, where twilight deepened into velvet blue, stars kindling above. The shard pulsed again, aligning with the constellations, as if greeting old friends in the sky. Visions rippled across her thoughts, oceans stirred by winds, deserts cooled by rain, forests reborn. Each vision was not demand, but gift, showing her the balance the shard now asked her to guard. Her chest tightened with awe, but no fear remained, only the steady rhythm of trust. She whispered to the stars, I will carry this song until the end of my days. The winds answered softly, like laughter of distant friends, weaving warmth through the night air. Aeon watched her, his expression unreadable, though his eyes held quiet pride and unspoken hope. Elara, he said gently, this is but the first verse. More shards wait, more songs await. She nodded slowly, holding the shard against her heart, feeling its glow echo with her breath. The plains grew silent, the stars brighter, as though the world itself prepared for the next journey. A comet streaked briefly across the night, its silver tail like a promise painted on the dark. Elara smiled faintly, her spirit steady. Then let us follow. The horizon is calling. Aeon rose, leaning on his staff, his cloak stirring softly in the evening breeze. Together they began their walk, their figures small against the vastness, yet luminous with purpose. The shard's glow did not fade but grew steadier, a beacon against the mystery of the unknown. Every step carried promise, every breath bound with the song that now lived within her. And though the night deepened, it did not feel dark, for the shard's light was their eternal dawn. The journey stretched endless, but Elara no longer feared, for she had become part of its rhythm. The wind swirled around her, not fierce but joyful, carrying her name across the plains. Elara, they called, endless in kind, bearer of the shard, child of the storm, keeper of the song. She lifted her face to the stars, her eyes shining, and whispered back, I am listening. And so, beneath the vast sky, with shard in hand and Aeon at her side, the story carried on.